Action it is.
Lights, camera, action.
Lights, camera,
Cheers.
action. Today, listen, cheers.
Cheers.
Today is going to be brought to you by Cleveland Street Tattoo.
Yes.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because they bring it every time. Cleveland Street Tattoo has been in Virginia Beach. The artists are all in Virginia Beach. They're some of the pioneers, and they're with the pioneering people of Virginia Beach
Some of the
tattoo
best
scene.
ones, yeah.
Some of the best ones around.
Yep.
They stick to the old school mentality. They're keeping tattoos scary. And
I have my one and only tattoo that I just got this year in my life was from there.
Right, exactly. Mine, I got about 17
I
of
trusted them, and I've never had them. So
the
yeah,
artists
you only
there
have a couple.
are the best. They're the best around, hands down. We can argue this, though there are some great ones out there. Cleveland Street Tattoo
Yes.
on Cleveland Street right here in Virginia Beach is one of the most tried and true, for sure.
Yeah, check them out for sure. And yeah, they're
the
a
artists
great
are
partner.
sincere. They're deep down in the heart of the game. They know what they're doing. They educate themselves on what's new, the technologies, but they still keep it old school, and that's the most important part. And while a lot of other shops and studios around, not so much here, but around the country, are focusing more on the artistic values of it all and the studio look, Cleveland Street Tattoo's old school, baby, and it's old school with a new school flair all day long.
We love you guys.
Check them out.
I know. We love you. All right. So that kind of leads us into the topic today of inspiration, because I think people have a story behind every tattoo. They have stories behind their lives. And for you, there's been a lot of influences coming into the culinary world and then staying on top of the culinary world.
Yeah, definitely. So, tattoo is a perfect word. I see a lot of chefs, younger chefs, with the knives on them and the fruit and vegetables and, the
People
chef
put
hats.
fruit and vegetables.
Cross knives with the chef hat.
Like Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't when I was getting tattooed 30 years ago, 20 years ago when I was a chef. Getting chef-related tattoos was not a thing.
No.
It was brimstone, flames, motorcycles, Harleys, naked women, all
You have
over
a
the
lot
place.
of naked women on your
Demons, big back pieces with 13-gauge needles. It was crazy. So, everybody gets inspired for different reasons, different ways, whether you're an artist of tattooing or a chef or whatever it is you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Producers out here, whatever they're doing. So that's the biggest thing, and I love to see now. I love to see the inspiration of tattooing on chefs. I do like to see some of it's really cool. Like
Well,
some of
time
these
has
murals,
changed because, it wasn't really acceptable back in the day either. I mean, a lot of places, and there are a lot of places that still make you cover up your tattoos.
Well, it's funny you say that because a lot back in the day, 30 years ago, I remember I was young. I was probably in my, I'm 50 now. I was in my early 19, 19, 20. Let's talk about that time. So chefs that had tattoos were like most of the chefs, or they were line cooks or something like that, where they had rough tattoos. I'm talking about mama with a heart, you know what I mean? They'd have a knife and a dagger with a serpent around it. And these guys were hardened people.
Yeah.
They were street people, but they were, they were typically coming to work buzzed or hungover, or sipping vodka as the shift went on. Junkies, heroin addicts, coke heads, whatever it may be. That was the way it was back then. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't uncommon to have a tattoo as a chef more than any other industry, but it was very uncommon to have a food or culinary themed tattoo. That was kind of like, okay, dude, what's this? So are you a gangster? What is this? But now times have changed, right?
Gangster in the kitchen.
So, hey, they are gangsters in the kitchen for sure. I mean, listen, it's not a bad thing to say.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, we are still, even today, still hardened people. Things aren't so easy for some other people in the kitchen world. Just the hours and the elements and everything we have to deal with sets us aside from most other people, So it's not uncommon to see tattoos. It's not uncommon to be inspired and get a tattoo of what inspires you outside to put it on you now, right?
Most of it, yeah. So
and we're talking about this. Why?
Well, what inspires you? Like, we just got off on a rant on this with tattoos, but it's about inspiration and finding it, kind of like writer's block. We all go through it in every industry, where you reach a time where you're like, I can't come up with ideas, I can't get creative, you're just kind of over it. So finding inspiration in the industry to keep you going.
Well, like you said, and in your industry too, you do have the backgrounds, of course, of the restaurants and everything, but right now, people are really counting on your inspiration.
Or creativity.
They're counting on your creativity, right? Yeah. So your creativity comes from inspiration, so on and so forth. But they're really counting on you to produce.
Yeah.
And you have to produce. Marketing is huge. That is nothing but creativity.
It's creativity all day. It can be tiring. It gets exhausting, but you have to recharge. Well, I think there's certain ways we both recharge.
Yeah.
What's your go-tos?
Man, are you talking about being creative in the kitchen or being creative in a business mindset or how I'm going to handle things?
All of it. I think people would be curious to know all of it. Because, I mean, you have to come up with different specials every week. So that's one way of being creative.
Yes.
Then
That gets hard after 30 years.
Yeah, because you have to keep coming up with stuff.
15 of them, but really, honestly, 10 of them, seriously. And then now the last 5 years has been forcing me to be more creative than I've ever had to in all the rest.
Okay.
So now I'm in the kitchen doing my specials, and I have other restaurants, other ventures going on. I have other business things happening. So now I'm getting distraction all over the place. And that's the problem. So, wow, good question. So I would have to say there's 2 places I get the most inspiration.
Okay.
Where it actually comes together in my head. There's many places where I go and get inspired. Yeah. But where I creatively put it together in my head, there's 2 places.
Okay. Where?
And most people don't understand it.
Okay.
Some do. One, the shower.
I was going to say shower, and everybody's nodding their head too. I think that's
shower.
For so many people. Why?
I don't know why. I don't know if it's the warmth, when I get underneath my shower, which let me tell you something. I fixed my shower.
Yes.
Right? And this thing comes down now like a waterfall. It's hot. It's pressure. It's beautiful, right?
You have to have water pressure.
I'm like, it's just instant calm.
Yeah.
Right? So with that being said, I have, a lot of my ideas come together in the shower for whatever reason. I don't know. I think just because it's calm and all my thoughts can kind of come together, and my thoughts always end up at the end of the day being around food. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Right? So
we like
it either makes me really comfortable or it stresses me the fuck out. So in the shower, it doesn't stress me out. The second place, right?
Yeah.
My motorcycle.
That
in
would
my
be
helmet.
One we could guess.
Motorcycle rides are the place where I come up with the most ideas, the most creativity, and the less I ride, the less creative I become.
Really?
Because I don't know what it is about that therapeutical moment. And I could tell you some things.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think not everybody who's listening's been on a motorcycle, so they don't get it, but you can kind of explain the psych side of it. Like you're open, there's no constraints, you have to focus.
Here's the thing. When you're on the motorcycle, all of your sensories are in full effect.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what it is. You're in full effect. All your senses are going. Your visual, your awareness, your alertness. You're checking around you. Your autoimmune, right? Your body stuff. Is that the right word?
Auto response. I don't know.
Whatever.
Right.
It is.
Whatever way to say it.
Yeah, the doctor term. Let them guys who ride tell you.
Figure that
out. But all those things connected together are making all your senses just fire, right? Mm-hmm. So while the ones that you're not expecting to fire are firing as well, you smell everything. If you're riding through a cornfield or behind a freaking manure truck, you're going to smell the cow shit, and you're going to smell the beautiful flowers. You're going to smell the ocean. You're going to smell the diesel fuel. You smell everything. And when you're riding, there's nothing better than that, right? And if that doesn't calm you, it's because you're raising hell on your bike, and it brings your dopamines up, and that's fun too.
Yeah.
Which always happens too.
Well, the dopamine hit, I mean, obviously you get that adrenaline spike, but paying attention. But it's also kind of that serotonin because it's relaxing. So you get a little bit of all the good feel-good hormones. Yeah.
When I ride with my brothers in the club all the time. Mm-hmm. And we go on our long rides all the time.
Which are how long? Like forever?
Some days at a time.
Yeah.
But we don't stop riding. And even locally, we ride together all the time. And it is the most relaxing, fun time that we can have on the planet. And it's all on 2 wheels, right? So that's where I come together. And for some reason, I'll remember something. I'll be driving by an area which will spark something about a pasta dish that I got from another area. And then I'll ride down the road a little further and find myself dazing off, just in my helmet thinking, although alert, my mind is just at ease. I'm just riding. We're just rolling, right? If you try riding through the cornfields in Nebraska, or you go just through the straights all the way through, even Wisconsin, these roads are just beautiful, straight, long, and fast, right? When the speed limit is 80 miles an hour, you're doing 120 with ease. And everything's just coming together. Things are just going by. I'm thinking about how now I'm getting hungry. So now I'm thinking about how the tomatoes work right with the fat rendering of a guanciale, and I'll see a pig farm, and I'll start thinking about pigs and start thinking about how that stuff comes together. We'll drive by the coast. I'll think about a fish dish, or I'll see something as simple as a delivery truck pulling up to a restaurant or on the highway, and it'll be a produce truck or something, and I'll have a picture of a certain produce, and I'll be like, wow, that's pretty unique that they put that picture on it. Now I'm thinking in my bike of that stuff, all in the same time, looking around me, listening to the motor. This is all things that inspire me the most. So I'm sure everyone has their inspiration. Another thing I used to do too is surf a lot. And I used to do the same thing there because I would be in the ocean. And a lot of my, you would notice if you come to my restaurants, I get a lot of inspiration in the summertime is more moving around fish. And you would think that's because of the warm season and it's typical. It's not. It's because I'm in the water more. And I'm feeling the fish more. I'm not the fish so much. I'm not having. Yeah, I'm not Aquaman by any means. But I'm feeling the.
Speaking to the fish.
So I'm feeling the fish, right? So no, I mean I will tell you. I mean it's I get a lot of inspiration from the ocean when I'm in it. You know what I mean? If I'm out deer hunting, I want to cook this. I want to cook the venison. I get the inspiration from that. So I guess it is what I'm around the most of. You know.
Yeah.
When I'm not riding. I'm having a hard time, you know. I'm always riding, but you know, during the winter months when it's really friggin' shitty and cold out, you don't have as much time to do it without being able to ride. You know, you're riding short distances every day, yes, but in those short distances, you're figuring out how you're going to pay your light bill, not how you're going to create a dish. So that's where a lot of my inspiration comes, and when you get those senses. Your sensory comes on, it doesn't become an overload when you put it on something else. You know, if I didn't have a place to funnel it, like cooking, it might become a sensory overload and I just might do a wheelie and right off the fucking bridge. But I get subdued by being able to process these thoughts other places. You know, if I drive by a place and I smell coffee in the morning on my bike, I'm thinking about how I can coffee rub a tenderloin. And these are things that I catch myself doing. And I never coffee rub the tenderloin. I just go to work and don't think about it again. But on my bike, I go back to it. I remember it. You know,
and you can't do that in a car. I mean, you're not going to get that same feeling.
You're listening to podcasts. You're listening to us bullshit.
There's distractions.
You're listening to radio, or you're just beeping the horn at some asshole on a bike that you're mad at because he's on one and you're not. You know, things like that.
Thinking about espresso rub tenderloins in front of you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of places to grab inspiration, but I think on a motorcycle, it's for me. Is where I get it the most. And I know there's a lot of chefs out there who get their inspiration from a million different, everybody's different, right? So I'm interested in hearing or seeing if anybody puts in the comments where they get their inspiration. Where do people get inspiration for food? Because I'm always looking for different avenues too, you know?
Yeah.
We get writer's block. Regardless.
And I think, like we talked about before, getting out, networking, going to other areas, getting inspired by other cities, other styles. Because, I mean, even with the bar, you know, and drinks and cocktails and how much it's evolved over the past decade, like just finding flavors that inspire you and then being able to do that. Or, you know, I'm also curious, so make sure you comment, like, where your inspiration is from as, you know, a bartender or a chef. Just because I'm always curious as how people's processes work. Because some people are, again, they have to see it, or there's someone who likes to pair things, so they want to pair tastes with food. So they get creative on cocktails based on the food profiles. Yeah. So it just depends on where the creative inspiration comes from. But I think mine is more, seasonal, but seeing what other people do, I get inspired by visual things.
Sure, and you're right, because, you know, if we're in our area, or any area, anybody watching in any other area other than this, and even the people in this area can absolutely relate. Whenever you're a chef working, or a cook, or a bartender, whatever it may be, you're only can do so much with the purveyor's accessibility to what they're bringing you. And if we have 3 or 4 major purveyors in the area, let's use Restaurant Depot for instance. A lot of smaller places go there because it's easier, but they only carry so many things. So if you have 1,500 people going to that same place to get their ingredients, there's only so many variations of what you can do with that ingredient, right? So your whole area becomes kind of, it becomes flooded with the same ingredient, just done differently a little bit, right? So when you move out of your area, they are still going through the same problem, but it's not your problem, right? So you're gonna go to Indianapolis, and we're gonna sit there, and we're gonna look at stuff. And though it may be flooded in their area for them to work with, it's new for me. So they have a lot of the stuff that their purveyors are bringing that we don't have here. Seasonal. So that's where I get my friggin' inspiration too. So if they're doing something over there with dandelion greens, in which we don't get here unless you special order and do that, we wouldn't think about it really so much. Okay. But when I'm out there and I see they're so commonly doing it in 3 different restaurants, 3 different variations, that's an indication to me that their purveyors are hot on pushing that item, and that's what they have to work with. Yeah. So I bring that inspiration back here. Travel. Get off the line.
Get off your ass.
Get off your ass. Travel around. Look at what other chefs are doing. You're not the best out there. I'm telling you right now. There's so many people out there that are so fucking good.
I think when you think you're the best, you definitely failed yourself.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do.
There's always room to learn, and this industry has changed so much. Every year we see something new come out that you're like, shit, why didn't I think of that before? Like, how did they just think of that? But that's the world of evolution with food, drinks, music, all of it. Like,
Sure.
and sometimes it takes a long time to come West Coast to East Coast. I mean, do you see food trends that come, you know, where do you think some of the meccas are when it comes to setting standards for like new trends for the year?
That's a great question. I think that, you know, it used to be coming from other countries, bringing it here. The regional, you know, whether you're infused with Asian, right?
Yeah.
Or Italian, or
Yep.
Spanish, or Greek, right? Each place in the United States would take that and they would kind of work with it as their inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Now, finally, American culture, American culinary culture is becoming its own. Yes, it's infused with all that stuff, but now I can get inspired by different regions. Do I see the trends of California coming out here? Absolutely. Right now, it's hard to tell the difference between coastal East Coast and coastal West Coast. Yes, even the fish are the halibuts and stuff. Yes, we have different species, but the preparation of them is kind of melding, right? It used to be you go out to the West Coast, and that's where you would get the tuna taco stuff with the cilantro infused and the peppers and the brightness. You know what I'm saying? You would bring out all that stuff out there with the wasabi stuff and the Asian infusion because of the Pacific coast. On the East Coast, you would get seafood, and it would be fried, battered. It would be grilled, a lot of stuff like that, broiled in butter. You would definitely tell the difference between East Coast, especially North Sea seafood, and Northwest seafood.
Yeah.
There would be a totally different thing. Well, now it's not so much the same. Now they're doing lobster out there from the East Coast, and we're getting Pacific lobster over here. We're getting warm water lobster over here more so than we ever did before because we were always cold water mentality. Now there's a lot of things like that. We're getting large U3 prawns from the Pacific,
which are amazing.
from Asia's stuff. It's okay and acceptable now because the accessibility of these ingredients are so much different now than they were back in the day. Back in the day, it was taboo. If you lived in Northeast and you were making Northeast-style seafood, you ate your steamer clams, dipped them out of the shell in butter with the big neck on them and the belly on them, right? That's not common down here in Virginia, but it is now. Now they're being shipped down, and now we have state of Maine lobster trucks all over the place, right? Whereas before that would not happen. So each area is becoming...
It's like cross-pollinating.
Cross-pollinating and acceptable. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think it's great that, I can go out in the Midwest right now and get some really nice grouper. People are like, well, I don't want that. Why? We're in the Midwest. Why the hell are we going to get fish? It's no different than when we get it. It's coming the same day. It's the same night. The truck leaves the dock and it goes out there at the same time. There may be 8 or 9 more hours on it by the time it gets somewhere, but it doesn't matter. If it's,
we look at Vegas because Vegas gets dibs on the best seafood in the world because we were just out there for the food and it was incredible. Every bite of seafood we had was just like you were plucking it out of the water.
Exactly.
It's
amazing. If anybody's been to Vegas, of course we already know you have each different tier of type of food you're going to get. But each one of them has to be the best because they're all competing for that.
A lot of competition there. We're going to have an episode coming about competition and community because they do well out there too with that. But I just like seeing the different variations of how people do things. And travel is probably my biggest inspiration for creativity.
Right, and the meats. That's another subject we haven't even covered yet. Meats right now, we haven't even fucked with that. It would be really hard back in the day to get really nice Colorado lamb here. These are things, when I say back in the day, I'm talking the 50s and 60s when you saw something of a domestic Colorado mountain lamb on a menu. This was at the Historia. This was at the Four Seasons. This wasn't at a normal place. These are places that were winning,
awards
Michelin stars, 5 stars. But even before Michelin was even in America, really. We're talking about big-ass resort-type menus that were only able to get this stuff because it was all about money and having the accessibility to get it from here to there. It wasn't until Rockefeller really liked lobsters and he was putting them in tins so he could bring them across to his buddies out west. It was when it started to become popular, right? But it's the same thing with meat. To get meat from Kansas City and stuff, they were doing the major stuff everywhere, but it's really hard to get it was really hard to get these cuts.
It was.
Now I can get wild boar from 3 different places that are farm raised in the same way they try and emulate the same way as they do in Italy and Tuscany.
It's close. I mean, and you can get bison at the grocery store
now. You can get bison
which
at the grocery store. You can get ostrich at the grocery store.
Yeah, you can get so much elk. I mean, there's so many different meats.
So many things that you can get that you could never get before. Caribou. These are things you can get if you can order online. We didn't have that stuff.
It's just a little more accessible because I think when we opened the steakhouse, and I think that was back in 2005, being on the East Coast, we had all of our beef was from the West Coast. So Harris Ranch, it was the only vertically integrated system, steakhouse system, where they were everything from breeding to butchering to shipping. So we could track every box back to the actual cattle.
Sure.
And I think they were the only ones in Virginia who had that full menu. They had that full list of meats from them. And it was absolutely incredible meat.
And back then it was harder
great.
to get.
It was harder to get, and it did, but we had the pleasure of having owners who were like, okay, I'm gonna spend the money on the food because I want the quality. Now it is a little more accessible. We can get it faster, and but back then, you really had to go to nice places to get those kind of
and that falls back to the beginning of the conversation where inspiration gets dwindled, and they start out with that great initiative, and then in time, things become about the bills. The chefs that started it ended up moving on, and the owners are now stuck with this. So then you see the dwindling down of that. Now we're getting back into the regular choice cut meats that are just,
not as good.
Not as good. Yeah. And now today, though, that's becoming easier to combat. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be selling a Australian Wagyu meatball on my menu. Now it's almost as accessible as it is to get chuck ground local Angus or whatever.
And people are getting used to paying for it.
And
so
they get used to paying for it because they want good.
They want the quality.
You know what I mean? There's still a better product. It's still a better marble. It's still a better fat content. They're still living off of some sort of, humane type of growth, right? Whereas a lot of this chuck now that you can cook out of a meatball, just regular American standard chuck that you would make a meatball, most places do, by the time you're done cooking it and the fat falls out of it and everything else, you're left with a fucking racquetball, right?
It's a tiny little
You got to play street ball with this damn thing. So it's not, they're just not good. So spending the extra money is worth it, but having accessibility to that ingredient now is so much
huge difference,
better. You know what I'm saying? Never, like I said, an Australian Wagyu meatball. Why would I have that in an Italian restaurant? There's only one reason, because it's the last resort for the best fucking meat. I'm not trying to really pimp out Australia by any means, or their meatball, or their Wagyu. I'm not even trying to do that. Everyone knows Wagyu is wonderful. It's good. It's got its own place in the world. Yeah. But I'm using it now because the meat, the quality. If I was getting the same product out of what we should be getting it here, I wouldn't be so hype on a Wagyu meatball. But it is Wagyu meatball is what I'm doing right now, and it's absolutely delicious. When you bite into this, you are eating the fats. You're feeling the proteins.
Great quality, yeah.
It's beautiful, and it holds the moisture. It holds the.
But you got inspired to do that by, again, seeing the food, tasting different foods, knowing what worked and what didn't. So I think for the creativity part of it, you're in what year is this now? 30 of chefing in general.
About 30 years.
30 plus years. Finding that inspiration every week is good to know. So we're saying most chefs, everybody just needs to get a motorcycle.
Get a motorcycle and do yourself a favor. Stop messing around. Get a Vespa. Get a little scooter and start small. I don't know.
Scooter.
But, it's wind in your face, elements, smelling the world for what it is.
Yeah.
To me, that's being on it.
Immersed. Well, you're more immersed in the world. So we want to know. We want everybody to share with us here at the end of this episode now what you get inspired by. Like, where is it? Is it the shower? Is it going and seeing other people's food? Is it flavors? Is it colors? Some people see and get inspired by color, and they see color, which is amazing. So there's so many different creative processes, but we're honestly curious to know what everybody's is. So
sure,
drop that below so we can make sure that we get those comments.
Exactly. Yeah, we would love to reply to them as well. And one last thing here is, music too does a lot of stuff for people. And that's why I have a rule in my kitchen that everybody right before service needs to shut the music down and everything, because whatever you're personally going through is going to be enhanced by the music you choose. So if one guy's in his headphones hating the world because he just got in a big old fight with somebody and blah, 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 and he's got, Pantera respect ripping through his head, that's how the food's going to come out. So everybody's got to realize that we get inspired from different things, and things affect us differently all the way around.
So I can't play my ratchet.
No, don't take it out on the food. It's not the food's fault,
Everybody knows what I listen to.
You're throwing that ass in the circle while you're mixing the friggin' egg yolks.
Every day. I'm back there dance. I never not have music on, so it always keeps me going. But my choice of music is not what most people want their kids listening to.
I can tell when a pastry chef has got a bad day with the headphone in because the way they're just smashing on the Sabian when they're mixing it. I mean, relax, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, so music. All right, well, share with us. We want to know. This is kind of like how you got your inspiration, so thank you for sharing that with everybody.
That's it, man. So good food. Keep it going. Keep cooking it. Hit subscribe. Hit like. Thanks for following us. All the above.
I know. All right, well, throw your shit below. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you soon.
Ciao for now.